So this party is going to be a real rager.
What party? You don't even drink, dude, let alone party.
Nah, talking about the all-barbarian D&D party.
Yeah, but, dude, what's up with the sunglasses?
I'm going to play a Drow barbarian.
Alrighty then, let's talk about the all-barbarian D&D party. Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Maybe it's your first time hanging out in Ted's basement. It's a place where we like to discuss news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Sometimes we even talk about other role-playing games.
So if you don't want to miss a single video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to tune to that notification bell.
Before we get into our all-barbarian D&D party, I want to do a quick shout-out to our sponsor. Campfire Technologies is an awesome world-building, authoring tool. You can build timelines over there. You can plot out your plots, build your characters, and it's all set up with this awesome visualization method so that you can just see everything really easy.
They've already got a huge community, so if you're like myself and are completely disorganized, you can use the cool tools at Campfire Technology and be able to get rid of that disorganization and work on each in their own section, whether you're talking about character arcs, story, world building. Each has its own area, each with its own set of tools.
There is a setup so that you could build your own encyclopedias, custom made and unique to your own campaign worlds. Whether you're writing stories or writing a campaign for D&D or some other role-playing game, they've got you covered. You can get Campfire Pro or Campfire Blaze. Just depends on whether you want to work out of a cloud-based operation or right off of your computer. That both options are available. There is a 10-day free trial as well as a 10-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. So you can take this puppy for a total of 20 days for a test spin to decide whether you like it or not. Check out the link below. Check out Campfire Technologies, the sponsor for this video.
So let's dive back into barbarians. All right, so as we dive into this all-barbarian build, what we have to look at is if you missed any of our other insert class party builds, the idea is every single character in the party is a single class, in this case, barbarian. So all of those missing party roles, how do you deal with it? How do you build it? So we dive in, we have some fun with it.
And we have 6 primal paths to work with. So if we have a 6-member party, then we're looking pretty good. We could each take one of them, right?
We could. So you have the Ancestral Guardian, you have the Berserker, and you have the Battle Rager.
You also have the Storm Herald, you have the Totem Warrior, and the Zealot.
Each of you out there can have your decisions as to what is the strongest, what is the weakest. We definitely have our opinions as to, which ones we would leave off if we had to trim down.
Now, I will say one thing about playing barbarians and the barbarian class as a whole. The barbarian class, subclasses, does something really well. I almost want to say better than any other character class out there. It really focuses on tanking and being the tank. No matter which subclass you go with, it just double downs on that. And it's like, you're playing a barbarian. You know what you're going to do? You're going to tank. But what if I play this type? No, you're going to tank. Like, the closest we get to maybe a little bit of support action is with the Storm Herald, with their 6th level ability where their aura kind of spreads to their companions and aids them in certain ways. But for the most part, man, the Barbarian is like, yeah, we tank all day, all long. That's all we're really going to do. And because of that, when we look at some other things, like we're going to look at backgrounds, we're going to look at feats, and we're going to look at races, they really need to, you need to really pick and choose carefully in order to make up for some of those areas where your party is going to be lacking. Mm-hmm. And as we've discussed with all the, building, this kind of all the insert class here party, you should do this together as a group if you want to have some cohesion. And not just that, you want your characters to be different from each other and have different roles that they can fill within the game. So there's not like, there's going to be overlap, but at least, you guys and gals can all feel like there's a little bit of a differentness to it all going on.
Right. I would say that, without a problem, in some of these other ones that we've done, there is, oh, well, somebody is going to be the spellcaster, somebody is going to be the ranged combatant, and it's a lot more difficult as a barbarian party to have that fallback routine. If you're playing barbarians, somebody's raging, everybody's rushing into melee. It's hard to not do that with the mechanics that you have built into your class.
Yeah, so many hit points. So many hit points. Well, so, all right, real quick, we've got 6 subclasses, but what if we only have a party of 4? Which 2 would you leave off? I know I've got my 2, but go ahead.
So I would immediately leave off the Berserker. I feel mechanically it is not the mechanically it's the weakest. It literally has a component built in that you use it 6 times in a day, you're dead. I'm sorry that just it's contrary to the point. And then I would say if we're cutting off another one, I would cut off the Zealot. Its primary ability of being able to be resurrected without components.
Well, that's one of them, but yeah, a lot of it is based around being dropped and being resurrected and things of that nature.
And since you don't have spellcasters in your party, I'm sorry. Having seen a pair of Ancestral Guardians working together, I'm heavily leaning towards, adding a second one of them before I'd go somewhere else, but, that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say Battle Rager and Berserker are tied for the weakest options. Thematically, the Battle Rager is a lot of fun. If you read the Dark Elf books, then
yes.
It's probably going to have a special place in your heart. It's very thematic for if you were a dwarf. And then the Berserker, the problem is Frenzy is one of their main abilities. Frenzy, I mean, at least it does do something in the game that is no results. Like you don't have to take the attack action to use Frenzy. So that does leave your action open to do other things. Mm-hmm. And you still get that bonus attack, but the exhaustion tax is really high. Zealot is actually really good, but it does have the downside that some of your abilities aren't going to be as useful without a cleric in the party to take advantage of them. I mean, maybe NPCs or something, you could use it that way. So that might be okay. They also have some other cool abilities, but yeah, like you said, of the 6, Zealot and the Berserker are probably the ones that are going to get left off. It's pretty close between Battle Rager and Zealot, though. I would even hazard to guess. So let's look at some ways that we can kind of shore up some of those weaknesses, fill some of those roles that we're not going to get from the character classes and subclasses.
All right, so where do you want to start? Do you want to go with races or do you want to go with backgrounds?
Let's go with backgrounds.
All right, so there are a number of backgrounds that we have that are going to add skills and abilities that we just wouldn't normally have access to as a barbarian. Skill-wise, intelligence-based stuff, Acolyte and Sage, I think, are going to be very helpful. They're going to give us access to religion and arcana. They're very helpful for dealing with certain problems and monsters as we, go into dungeons.
You also have Charlatan, Criminal, and Urchin. These are all going to help you with stealth, deception, having thieves' tools, things that barbarians usually don't worry about. But any of those are going to be super helpful. So basically, we're trying to just shore up some spots for skill sets that you might not normally get from the barbarian.
Now, you might prefer the barbarian tactic of, I find traps and disarm traps with my hit points.
With my face.
But if you're not looking to go down that path, then these are just some options for you to, shore up those weaknesses and not use your hit points for everything.
All right. Next up, we have races. And we have this broken down into 2 categories. Magic and skills. And magic, we're looking at magic more as a means to have things to use out of combat, maybe for the exploration phase or social phases, or, as a way to overcome certain things that don't involve battle and combat, to give you some more options, or maybe even just some role-playing things. And it's also one of the few places where you're going to get any kind of healing and stuff like that. And, we're going to have a similar discussion when we get to feats as well.
So, the first 4 in there, we have Aasimar, Drow, Firbolg, and any of the Genasi.
And then we have Gith, the Anti-Pureblood, and the Triton. And for the Gith, it's both Gith Yankee actually dips into skills as well. So all of those are going to add, some extra flavor to your barbarian and cover up and shore up some of those weaknesses that you had. And also it's just going to make the party a little more interesting by diversifying.
So we have 6 races that, definitely dive in on skills. So we're looking at Changeling, Half-Elf, Human.
Then there's Kenku, Lizardfolk, and Veldalken. So all of these are going to add, a bunch of skills to your character as well. Some extra flavor, give you some abilities that you wouldn't otherwise get. But also keep in mind too, we are not even getting into the other stuff that you're going to get from those racial choices as well. So most of them have other things too. So it's not like that's the only thing you're going to get. And each of these are going to make your barbarian a little bit more unique and different from the barbarian that's standing right next to you.
When you're choosing your feats, and you're only going to get so many as a barbarian, we've broken these down into 3 different categories. And because we don't have access to healing magic, we get a lot of hit points. We have damage resistances to a lot of different things depending upon, what's going on. We need as many hit points as we can. So we just put damage mitigation into one category. Whether you want to take Inspiring Leader to get temporary hit points, whether you want to take Tough to just have more hit points, or whether you want to take the Healer feat to use healing kits outside of combat to administer and cure your allies, all of that deals with that extra hit points.
Also, you could go with Magic Initiate and go with Cleric, and then that would give you, Spare the Dying might come in handy at some point, but you could at least have a Cure Wounds spell at first level.
I think, given a single casting of Cure Wounds or the Healer feat, I would probably opt to go with the Healer feat.
I can't disagree with you there because you will overall get way more hit points back with that. But in a pinch, sometimes you just need to, get it done.
That is true.
All right, and next up we have skills, and we have Dungeon Delver, we have Prodigy, we have Skilled, and we have Linguist. These are all things that either give you a skill or they're going to enhance the skills that you have and make you better at them. Prodigy is very specific. You have to be half orc, half elf, or human, but it's really great because it is one of the few ways to get expertise in the game without being a bard or rogue.
So very useful. Dungeon Delver, again, is going to pair nicely if you're, playing the one who's opted to go with the Trap Finder. Get it.
No matter the method you choose.
But advantage on your perception and investigation checks for traps. Incredibly handy there. So our last section for feats is going to be magic. And here, the comes into a variety of different, or a couple different scopes. Is number one, it's either dealing with the mage or getting access to more magic. So whether you want to go magic initiate and dip into a variety of different classes that you feel is needed for your party, whether you want to go ritualist to get access to out of combat magic, or whether you want to be fighting those mages because you don't have counterspell and take the Mage Slayer feat.
Yeah, Magic Initiate and Ritual Caster, they're going to give you a bunch of things and options that you can do outside of combat, and again, make your barbarian stand out and a little bit more interesting than the barbarian standing next to you.
The tribal shaman exists in a variety of different, cultures, lore, and, stories. So, dabbling in magic with either of those totally fits the barbarian theme and the whole concept of the Mage Slayer barbarians. Isn't there like a whole novel series about the barbarians who hate magic users? So, and it's definitely out there.
Yeah. So with that, as far as building your party of barbarians, it's not as crucial to pick the right subclass mix as it was with some of the other videos that we've done on this topic. Pretty much all the barbarians do the same thing. They soak up a lot of damage. Some of they do it in different ways, and they also tend to do a lot of damage. Mm-hmm. So that being said, you can go with any combination you like. You just might want to mix it up so you're not all playing the same ones. I think your biggest choices are going to come from your background, your race, and what feats you decide to choose. Heck, you could and this is kind of bleeding into the next section of our video, like how you would play with this. You could all be humans from, the same tribe or different tribes. And, with the variant human, because you have those floating +1s, because you can take a feat, and because you can pick a skill, like all of the characters could be pretty different if, depending on the choices they make.
There's a lot of different ways to go into this. Having played D&D for years, most of the time games start in a town. So if you're going to play all barbarians, if you're going to play all barbarians with the same race, like I see this as like, this is the war on settlements. Like you are a tribe. You are the ones who have stood out amongst, the great. And it is up to you to stop the incursions of this civilization that is encroaching upon your domain.
The invaders, the colonizers. Yeah, and you don't even have to be the same tribe. It could be a bunch of tribes have united. Humans and even monstrous humanoids, really, just to like throw off this incursion and be like, no, these are our lands. You can't build your stone houses and put up your caves wherever you want to. It's not working for us. You're going to have to fight for every inch of that. That would definitely be an area where you could go, especially if like the people coming in were not only just taking the land and driving them out. Maybe they're taking slaves and things of that nature as well. They consider them primitive, so they don't really look at them as people, as equals. So they have no problem enslaving them. So, you might be the defenders of this land and your tribe. So that would work really easy. And it would be a great way to like bring everyone together as the party, where each tribe is like put forth their best warrior, that you're that warrior. It becomes real easy to get the party together. Now, the other area where I think would be a good way to use the all barbarian party is, how many times have we gotten that comment, that message, that email? How would you do a prehistoric game? How would you do a game without magic? Like those kind of games, like, you're already there for the most part, right? The all barbarian party is the perfect time to run that type of game if that's what you've been itching to do.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening. Touching back on that last idea, you could have a lot of fun with, okay, when you go to introduce your character, like, they could literally be like, okay, I step forward, and they have to give their spiel. I am Lothar of the blah, blah, blah. This is my tribe. And they have to, kind of basically, as you're introducing your character, you're doing it in character because, you've got this element.
But you did it wrong. It's like, I am Lothar of the Hill, people.
I wasn't going to try and sing, so sorry to make you guys have to go through that. And then, from the other side, perhaps you are, all tribe members, and there is, beyond the civilization, they are wiping out the barbarians. They're trying to civilize the entire world, and you are all that remains. Each of you are the last surviving member of your tribe, as whether you fled, whether you weren't there, everybody gets to come up with their own story of why they weren't there to defend. And then you've got this, this really grim tale of, okay, well, what do you do next? Do you seek vengeance? Do you move on and find a new thing? Do you settle in it with a new tribe somewhere else? There's a lot of different things you can do.
Just what we need, a whole party of edgelords. My parents were murdered. What about as the DM? What do you do against a whole party of barbarians? Like, those hit points will never end.
There's a lot to look at when it comes to fighting against a horde of barbarians, and single monsters are not going to be your answer. The lone monster, unless you're talking about seriously upping that CR against the party, these things are going to come in, they're going to hit hard, they're going to be making a lot of attacks, they're going to be doing it with, potentially with advantage. The crits are going to come, and when they hit, they're going to hit hard. So they're going to mow through things easily. So in order to combat that fact, you want to definitely have multiple adversaries, multiple combats, each day, so that you're soaking up those rages, so that you're really, dipping into those hit points and hitting in hard. understand that, okay, you might put out a combat and the barbarians just mow through it, taking no damage whatsoever. You have to just accept that. Sometimes that's going to happen.
Now, the weakness to this party is going to be ranged attacks, magic from afar, area of effect, a lot of enemies. But figure you also, it's an opportunity to do that because barbarians can mow them down, so you can use waves of a lot of enemies without too much problems. Obstacles to get in their way, keeping them from the barbarians. Hit and run tactics can be particularly devastating against a party of barbarians, because if a round goes by and they do not take damage or attack something, then they're going to start going through their rages. Or they're going to literally have to be damaging themselves or doing something to harm to themselves in order to stay in their rages. So now they're doing the work of the enemy for them, when all 4 to 6 of them are hitting themselves and doing a little bit of damage each round, because the enemy just runs in, attacks it, and runs out. So that is definitely a tactic that would be kind of brutal on these. And also, if you combine skirmishers that use ranged attacks and this tactic, it becomes even more brutal.
I would completely agree with that, and I was kind of going to go down that road. Barbarians typically, they're dumb. They dump intelligence. If you look out there, most of them are not tactical fighters. They charge in, they fight. So if they are dealing with an adversary that is outwitting them, has the ability to observe them in combat, they have got the ability to see, okay, well, this is how they fight. I need to fight differently. So as you were saying, you've got, waves, okay, they come in, they hit, and they flee. Goblins, kobolds, whether they just, go in en masse, and some of them make it out, and it's a rolling stage fight, so that there's always, it's pulling them in, and it could be pulling them towards a trap. It could pulling them towards a much larger ambush. And if it's a typical barbarian, they're going to just charge in, and they're going to, possibly get into a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, think about them, fighting that encroachment of civilization, and like their adversaries are aware and know it's coming, and they use those skirmish tactics. And then, they strike from afar, they fade back, the barbarians do their charge, a flamed arrow hits the ground, and all the ground erupts as soaked oil ignites, because they understand and they know the tactics of their enemy. So these are all things to consider. But as the barbarians, you can take this into consideration too. And just because how most barbarians are, doesn't mean your barbarian has to be that way. Your barbarian might be a master tactician and strategist. And ultimately dealing with unending frustration because the rest of the adventuring party just wants to rush and charge in, and you've got a plan.
So you're going to have to take that with a grain of salt.
Absolutely. So with that, let us know, have you played the All Barbarian Party? How did it go? Let us know down in the comments. With that, I want to invite you to join Nerdarchy the Adventuring Party over on Patreon. What can they expect there, Ted?
We are creating products for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons that both players and DMs alike can drop right into their game.
But that's not all. We do monthly giveaways, and our patrons are automatically entered.
We do weekly hangouts with our patrons and more.
So quest on down to the description, join the Nerdarchy Adventuring Party, and until next time,
stay nerdy.